Hi, everybody. The assignment number 2 for the depreciation is a little bit complicated, so I thought I'd try to give you a quick video to show you some of the tricks in getting that if function to work with the rest of your formula. So let's take a look at the example problem we've got. This company purchased a machine for $5,000 on January 1st of the current year. They're going to use straight line depreciation over 8 years. However, this company designs all of its depreciation schedules to accommodate assets with up to 10 years of life. So the depreciation for this asset should end on the 8th year, and years 9 and 10 should be shown as blank. In order to get that done, you're going to need an if statement. And the logic in the if statement is, if the year in which we're calculating the depreciation is less than the total number of years in its life, then calculate the depreciation expense and put it here. But if the year in which we're calculating depreciation is greater than the total number of years in its life, then you want to put a blank on this line. And that same logic is going to apply for accumulated depreciation and net book value. The first thing I did was to insert an extra row here above my lines of depreciation. And I will show you why as we get further in this demonstration. So I need to calculate depreciation expense for the first year using Excel functions. And I'm going to start out with the if function. And I'm going to put my logical test here. If year 1 is less than or equal to the total number of years in the life, and we have to fix that reference. Any reference to these lines up here must be fixed. Then the logical statement is, and by the way, we have to round these. You have to include a round function. So if true, round, use straight line depreciation for Excel, that's SLN. And I put in another parentheses, the cost, comma, the salvage value, comma, the number of total years in its life, in that parentheses, then put a comma and tell it how many decimals you want it to round to, which would be 0. Put an into that parentheses. And now we've calculated $625 of straight line depreciation on a $5,000 asset over 8 years with no salvage value. And that's what's going to show up in the depreciation expense cell, unless we get to years 9 and 10. So if this value is not less than or equal to the number of years in the life, then we want it to be blank. 2 quotation marks. Make sure that we have all of our cell references in B2 through 4, fixed references. So I need to fix B2 with a $sign, B4 with a $sign, B3 with a $sign, and say OK. Now let's talk about accumulated depreciation. As you all know, accumulated depreciation is last year's accumulated depreciation plus this year's expense. And that's precisely why I inserted this row at row 7 so that I could make this formula. In cell D, I want to make the formula prior depreciation, so D7, plus current year expense, C8. I want to round that, and I also need to make sure that I have an if statement. If I don't have that if statement, then strange numbers are going to pop up down here in years 9 and 10. So let's start out with the if function. If year 1 is less than or equal to the total number of years in its life, then the sum of, put the sum of prior accumulated depreciation plus current year expense. Round that to 0 decimal places and close off the formula. That's what they do. That's what they're instructing it to do if it's true. If it's false, if the years in which we are depreciating are greater than the total years in the life, then we want to put in a blank space, 2 quotation marks side by side. And let's do the same thing for the net book value. Again, net book value, as you know from your accounting classes, is cost minus accumulated depreciation. So the basic formula is going to be fixed B2 minus D8. But we want to insert the same if function with that formula. So starting out with the if function, so if year 1 is less than or equal to the 8 years in its life, then cost minus accumulated depreciation otherwise make it blank. And I didn't round this one because both of these numbers are rounded. There's no sense in having to round this one. Now, let's check and make sure that every time in every formula that I am referencing one of these cells, B2, 3, or 4, that I have fixed that cell. I fixed B3, I fixed B2 in this formula. I need to fix B3. B3 is already fixed, 2 and 4 and 3 are already fixed. So I should be able to copy these cells down to the rest of my spreadsheet And if I haven't made any errors, it's going to end up with 0 net book value at the end of year 8, and years 9 and 10, those rows will be blank. There they are. So that's instructions on what you should be doing when you work on assignment number 2 to do your straight line depreciation and your double declining balance depreciation on 3 different assets. Keep in mind that SLN is the function for Excel for straight line depreciation, and VDB is the instruction for Excel to do double declining balance. See you next time.